We're going to explore the major events that happened in 2024 when it comes to the world of business. Today, we're diving into the economy, trends that define 2024, from currency fluctuations and inflationary pressures to exciting new policies and entrepreneurial innovations. Nigeria's economy has had a year of twists and turns, but beyond the headlines, what are the key takeaways and what lessons can businesses, policymakers, and individuals draw from this year that was?
Oh, yes, indeed. So to help us unpack this, we're joined by two distinguished guests. First, we have Dumebi Oluwole. She's a senior economist from Stears, and she'll help us to bring an analytic lens to these trends that we saw this year. And also joining us is our very own Nasir Agbalaya. He's the lead for the business desk here at News Central Television, and help us to discuss some of the developments that we saw this year as well. Lady and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
However, that you are looking absolutely fantastic and patriotic.
Thank you. I think we should leave the patriotic side.
Okay.
I appreciate the compliment.
If you see my face the way it is, it was rehearsed. And it was just like, so my face is...
She ditched on me.
You know, and then I knew, I'm so glad she didn't follow through. It's like,
oh, goodness.
But anyway, thank you guys for coming on, and thank you for doing this with us. 2024 has been quite the year. Yeah. When the president made the announcements that he did in 2023, we started to see the full effects of those what those statements he made May 2023 here in 2024, yeah. And so much from the foreign exchange, the floating of the naira, to the removal of subsidy, and then the onboarding of Dangote refineries and all the whole back and forth and the policies, the CBN. I want to ask you, for both of you, which was the defining moment when it comes to our economy sector? I'm going to start with you, Dumebi.
That's a very packed question.
I know.
To be very honest, I don't think I had a defining moment, but I would
What stood out for you then?
Yeah, I would say the entire summary of how 2024 was for me, and I would just put it as unpredictable. From the reforms that took place to how they were implemented, to the entire Dangote refinery, setting up, to how the naira moved, both at the parallel market and the official market, to some of the developments we saw from the CBN. Yeah. I would say everything was somewhat unpredictable. No one really knew where things were going to eventually land, both on the economic side and even on the policymaker side. So it was more of navigating the waters in 2024. And I think that was pretty much it. But everyone was just more of like, okay, this is happening. Okay, so we've seen this. How do we navigate it?
It seemed like 2024 was a big litmus test.
Exactly, exactly. So I think going into 2025 now, we kind of know where things are, and we should be able to see some level of certain stability in certain aspects of the economy. Yeah.
Nasir, how about you?
Yeah.
Well, for me, three things stood out more. I'm not saying that the other ones are not impactful, but naira devaluation was a very, very interesting situation for all Nigerians, because as an economy that has survived with the love of bringing in goods, with naira going down, that became more expensive. Now, the fact that there's a lot of energy reforms this year also impacted businesses and private individuals. Now, energy reforms in the term that now, the refining capacity of Nigeria became a reality for the first time in decades. And that impacted that sector. Because we know last year, just like you mentioned, when the president mentioned that subsidy gone, the reality was felt more in this year. And that impacted transportation, food movement from where they are being grown to the markets. I mean, everybody felt the pinch. Now, but a small glimmer of hope happened with diaspora remittances. I mean, everyone who had people sending money to them was smiling to the bank.
Oh, they really were.
But incidentally, that is not everyone. So not everybody was so impacted positively. Rather, it was a negative side. Now, the fact that electricity supply in Nigeria also had its own dynamics there. And it became, of course, the introduction of Band A, Band B, and the new tariffs that came with that impacted the whole nation. Now, that means that not everyone could afford it, incidentally. And even the Band A itself was not what it was promised. The 24-hour power supply, a 20-hour power supply, don't become a reality. Let's not forget that the power grid, I mean, for more than 10 times, it collapsed collapse in
Well,
2024.
to be specific.
One for each month.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
I hope they don't give us another good measure before we end the year.
No, please don't jinx
not.
it. We've only got about a couple of days to go. But maybe let me ask, two things that stood out this year was inflation and
Yes, of
also
course.
tax reforms.
Yes.
The inflation situation got worse and worse and worse. There was reprieve somewhere, and then we kind of like caught it and
We
dropped
celebrated too soon.
We celebrated too soon. We
Yeah.
jinxed it, apparently. The president, however, has said, be patient, literally, be patient. And then he introduced tax reforms. This didn't go down well with the North and stuff like that. So these two are very pivotal concepts for 2024. 2025, where do you see us when it comes to inflation? Better, worse? Tax reforms, is the North going to say, you guys are trying us too much?
Isn't that too soon to ask?
But let Dumebi be the one,
I mean,
the
I
expert.
wouldn't say it's too soon. I would say that we do have pointers, right, to where at least the first quarter of the year would somewhat land. And starting with inflation, we do know that prices will still remain high, right? We do not expect prices to significantly decline anytime soon. And the reason is because the fundamentals backing inflation, or the stoking factors backing inflation, are still very much prominent, right? We do know that food inflation is the largest driver of inflation in Nigeria today. And all the issues supporting or nudging food inflation are still very much at play. We know that insecurity is still very much a big issue. Our key food producing states are still battling flooding, the impact of the flooding that happened this year. We also know that logistics issues are still very prominent. We also know that the price of fuel still high, right? Even though
No, they brought it down for 15 naira.
It's down, but
Isn't that enough?
No, let's
be patient, he said.
So the thing is, right, there is always going to be a lag effect.
Right.
So even when the nominal number, the absolute number you're seeing is lower, right, it will take some time before it will translate
Can
into
an 85
significant
naira deduction make any effect? Because this was the argument.
To be
between
very
myself and
honest,
Mazino
if you do if we do some little computation, mathematical computation, you will realize that it will have some decline. It will have some, because when you measure it in liters,
0.04,
right?
right?
No, but if you actually put it in liters, right? So what were you paying for in terms of liters when it was 1,000 naira, 1,025 naira, right? So but now it's a bit lower. So it means in terms of liters, just by a little bit, it's a little bit higher, right? So what it means is that the movement of goods and services, right, the amount of money you would have spent, taking maybe if you were spending about 100,000 naira moving from maybe Lagos to, let's just assume now maybe Oyo State. Let's assume that that's where you were spending. It means that now you'll probably be spending about the 95-ish, thereabout to go. So that 5,000 naira is still something. The 5,000 naira you will use as informal taxation. Normally that you would have to carry additional cash as informal taxation on the road to move that.
Just a bit of relief.
Yes, so it's a little bit.
0.004.
Still. But tax reforms.
Yeah, so now on the tax reforms, and we do know that there's a lot of, I would say, it's not catastrophic, but I would say that people have not accepted it in a very good light.
Or understood it.
Or understood it. And I think that's where I was talking about the unpredictability that happened in 2024. And this is one thing I would like to say in terms of a recommendation to policymakers. The communication around policy or tax reforms or changes, right, to whatever was the status quo is extremely important, because if the public and the people that you're doing this for do not understand why you're doing what you're doing and what exactly you are doing, there will always be misconceptions around the policy changes, right? And that, of course, will definitely move, there's a trickle-down effect on the economy, faster than when good things even happen, right? Because it's exactly the same way we saw when the president in 2023 said that fuel subsidy was removed. That evening, we saw queues at filling stations, right? Because both the independent marketers, the driver on the road, everybody was like, everything is going to be expensive, and everybody just started. Yes. So communication goes a long way. It's the reason why the central banks around the world spend days of their weeks whenever they're coming out to say, okay, this is the policy change we're going to make. We're trying to reduce this. So it's called forward guidance. And fiscal policy authorities should actually start doing the same thing, at least here in Nigeria. So with this tax reform, it's extremely important that people do understand why they're doing what they're doing. Yeah. It's because you wanted to ask something.
Is it communication that's the issue with this tax reform bill? I mean, in terms of, the opposition and the rejection of the bill by the northern leaders, because communication is sort of glossing what's much more deeper. So
Yes,
would you agree?
yes. Yeah.
No, yes, I agree, and understanding also. Because you look at it, most of the northern states, if not all the northern states, they have the population.
Right.
And because of that, they will still be getting a larger amount. And they are not even focusing on that.
Did you say they have the population?
Yes,
Yes,
they
they
have the
do.
numbers.
It's not just about landmass. But, look at it from the voting pattern across Nigeria.
Yes.
I mean, they not always determine who wins any
The
federal...
big five.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I do beg
So-
to differ.
We'll let you win.
Yeah, please go ahead.
We'll have a good debate.
Now,
Yeah.
the thing is, because of that, they will still be getting a part of the VAT calculation. Now, the main issue that they've been hammering about is because of these certain states, looking at Lagos, Rivers, where most of these VAT come from.
Yeah.
You'll be getting a larger chunk than before, I mean 10, 15%. So they are focusing their argument on that this will impoverish them. And that is not based on reality.
Because for them, it's volume over percentage.
But the volume is still there, and that is still part of the calculation.
Right.
So it's not one particular, it's just one size fits all. There are different calculations into the segmenting VAT proceeds. So which all of these are still being considered in the VAT reform policies.
Right.
So that's why I said that communication, yes, is one, but also understanding it. Because many of the elites, they will be taxed more. And they don't want that to be a reality. They don't
There you
want to
said
pay
it.
more.
You said
They
the
don't want to
problem.
at all. That is the main thing, but they're using something else.
Purchasing power is
Exactly.
different.
Yeah,
Now they're using
there you
something
get it.
else to
Yeah,
get
you-
the people behind them.
On the last day of the year,
Yeah, you
we
get it.
get
That's it. I'm glad. That's why I asked you this here because I'm glad you stand up to that conversation.
You didn't agree.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I agree with these points.
Yeah.
But in terms of the North, like having majority of the population, using the voting system as the metric to actually pull that information out, that's where I have a little contradiction.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because we don't know the politics around population numbers in Nigeria, especially when it comes to voting, right? And because of the borders around the North, we do know that there's an influx of non-Nigerians through
Calm down,
Yes.
Agbalaya.
non-Nigerians into the northern states a lot of times to make up those population numbers for voting. And to an extent, even for some of these tax reforms, not exactly tax reforms, but even for some of the state benefits, right, that the North gets.
Right.
We do know that those population numbers are not exactly
Might
fully
I
known. So that's why
add-
I wanted to just
Okay.
put
Yeah.
that information
I
out
get
there.
that.
But I do agree
Yeah.
with the analogy for the VAT.
For the VAT.
And to be very honest, I think this is a very good step in the right direction in terms of decentralizing power across the states.
Yep.
And this is because now every state will be forced to take initiative
Yes.
to generate revenue.
And they
this
don't
is
want that in
exactly
the North.
what
They
needs
don't
to
want that
happen.
in the North at all. Let's be
And it's
realistic.
exactly what needs to happen
don't want
in
it in
terms
the
of
North.
how much Nigerian states, and I think at the time I wrote an article about this.
Right.
We have 36 states in Nigeria, correct, right?
Yes.
And about 33 of them are highly dependent on FAC generation. That is the money they get from
Yeah.
The fact allocation.
and we also do know that the derivation, right, of how this FAC is calculated is by population numbers. So depending on how much you are in your state, that's how much you get.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, states that have a lot more resources and are generating a lot more revenue internally do not necessarily benefit, because when you generate revenue, you take it back to
the federal
center,
coffers.
and the center now
Divides.
divides it again.
Yeah.
So right now, again, I was just going to say, all states will be forced to do what needs to be done. And what this will make us do, when you think of how the US is structured,
Yeah.
how like the New York has to make sure that they focus on
they meet their
technology
coffers and they
to
do,
generate
yeah.
revenue. Texas is focusing on something else.
On the agricultural
So now,
sector and the
this
oil.
is what's going to happen in Nigeria.
Judith.
I wanted to add something to what you were talking about, you know, the borders in the North and indigents of the North and who is not Nigerian. It took me back to when, remember, President Muhammadu Buhari was fixing the road between, I've forgotten the border town now, into Niger. And when they asked him, why are you focused on building that road? Why are you focused on fixing that road and building rails on that road? He said, and I quote, I'm going to try to paraphrase what he said. He said, I have cousins that are from Niger. And I have did that. Can you now tell me that? No, he said from my mother's
Is
line.
it your northern root?
Is it your northern root? You know, why are you telling me? You know,
I'm taking this, right?
You know, so yeah.
Yes, northern Nigeria, as far extensive as to Ghana, they have the Hausa Fulani tribes there. Of course, Niger has mostly Hausa Fulani. Yes, in that context, he's spot on. But let's not forget that Niger is a landlocked country. So it makes economic sense for a road to be into Niger or a rail track that Nigerians can bring their goods to Nigeria to sell. Also, if you want to export, we have the ports. They don't have a seaport.
Yes.
So bringing the goods here, they could also export. That is also another revenue channel for Nigeria.
Yeah.
So it is, yes, I believe that must be sentimental on his part. But it's still a business.
Just a second, Nas. Oh, we have no time, but I just wanted to also mention one other thing that was very, very important for 2024, and that's the Dangote refinery, while we're talking about roads and transportation. What might have seemed to be sabotage on the part of the NNPCL, many have argued, and the effect on what we finally got. We thought he was the Messiah.
No, it's not.
Well,
I argued that he was good, that he was a businessman, and everyone was coming for me.
Let them. Okay, so who's good first?
Please.
You go ahead.
All right.
Summary,
Let's be realistic. Let's be realistic. Dangote refinery, first and foremost, is situated in where? An export zone.
Yeah.
So that means it is primed for export originally.
Not for local.
No. Now, let's be like 3-4 months before they actually started production. The vice president of that conglomerate, the manager of the refinery, said that they would price their product in dollars. He held a press conference, mentioned it.
Right.
But unfortunately, most of us didn't pay attention. So when he brought it out and it was higher than NNPC, everybody was shouting. We've forgotten also that there was a partial subsidy that NNPC was still paying before then.
The phantom subsidy.
Of course, when Dangote refinery started, say, oh, wow, okay, fine, we have local capacity right now.
Right.
Yes, hands off. NNPC did that. They hands up. So the price went up. It is just reality.
I want you to answer another question, and forgive me.
Yeah.
Because we're pressed for time, and there's so many we got to get to, because the economy is really what was so important for us this year. Are we primed for investment come 2025? I ask because of the exits of the multinationals that we saw. We also saw very important mergers, especially in our oil and gas sector.
Nas is doing that thing where he wants to answer another question. Nas, we're out of time.
And we also saw IMF now on our neck with our debt servicing. Are we primed with the touting of the foreign exchange, flouting the naira? Are we primed for investments come 2025?
If I'm to answer the question on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll put it at 5.
Ooh,
and the reason why
that
I say
is
5,
average.
Yes, and the reason why I say 5 is because the kind of investment that we're trying to attract, which is long-term investment, those investors are still not yet incentivized enough. And the reason why I say that is because the approach we've taken to the reforms that we've put in place are very much just very attractive to short-term investors. And that's why we saw an influx of short-term investors into Nigeria in 2024. The goal now is to make sure that the reforms that we've taken and put up in place, we begin to start seeing some of those benefits, right? And by benefits, I mean, number one, we're beginning to see food prices decline. We see the exchange rate more stable. We see infrastructure development take place a lot more and in places that will be lucrative for long-term investors. And the reason why I say this is because if you're doing a road network may be from Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, I'm just assuming that's road network that you are trying to fix. Right. Meanwhile, there's an export-free zone that needs some good roads. Investors are looking at, okay, where are your priorities? What exactly are you trying to achieve here? So we also have the Badagry Road, things like places that are more lucrative for businesses, and especially in terms of taking advantage of the AFCTA, that we're now seeing more countries in Africa begin to accept, develop, and actually push through in 2024. So question is, what's Nigeria doing about that? We have a lot of ports. We have a lot of trading activities that should be going on. So basically, point is 5 as an average for long-term and stable investors.
And you did all that while you bumped the Lagos-Calabar Highway. Interesting.
So you see, these are the issues. these are the issues. What we're planning to do, or the government said we're going to do Lagos-Calabar Expressway, some businesses were basically plowed out of the ground.
I'm thankful you're saying this.
And where are we with that? So those are the things that long-term investors are going to look at. So are you telling me if I bring my money in today, tomorrow
you
can
wake up in 10 years
and tell
and
me
say,
that that's not
the
it.
grand plan.
Where will my investments go? So they need to be encouraged to want to bring in their money. And until they see that encouragement from the fiscal side of the economy, they will continue to wait and see.
Nasir, I have to ask you, because we're pretty much out of time. 2025, with the budget and the debt servicing that is, can we meet that target for IMF to look at us and say, okay, these people are serious people. Let's shake body small for them.
Yes, and maybe. Reality. See, Nigeria's major problem is not the budgeting. Really, it isn't.
I agree.
It is always the implementation.
Yes, that I agree as well.
We have wonderful ideas. Now, before the show started, I was talking, I think Dumebi, that we have been talking about dry season farming, but we haven't done it yet. The flooding that happened in the north should not have happened. That is a means of irrigation.
Right.
We are not doing it. So all these physical issues, when they are tackled categorically, yes, the budget will do what it meant to do, boost the economy. But if you do not put all these things in place, it's still same rhetorics. For inflation to go down, there needs to be food available. If you don't tackle insecurity, make sure that farming is all year round. There's adequate storage for this. Processing, of course, the value chain.
Nas, I'd like to say I'm sorry. Dumebi, I'd like to say thank you.
Thank you too.
But thank you too. It's
you.
not enough time. It's an excellent, fantastic conversation. And come 2025, can we have this again? Now, this time, let's respect.
Definitely.
So please, we're going to do this again, first or second show or week. And I'm hoping that you'd look even
Prospects
much more
for
radiant then.
2025. We look
Yes,
forward to
indeed.
it. Thank you, lady.